Did you have a contact list too?
Yeah.
Show that.
I think is it coming the other way?
That way, or?
Well, it's a little more confusing.
Golf cart ride, probably.
Same thing.
Finance schedule.
Don't you love these maps, they're fogging up.
Did your envelope?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you not get it? No. My mail said it was coming yesterday, and it didn't come yesterday. It was today.
Is that a contact list?
Yeah, that's the roster.
Circulate? Yeah, Michelle.
I just peek through it. Yeah. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we'll deal with this in new business. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I.
Preliminary revenue from the state, and we're going up significantly.
Oh, that's good.
The estimate.
Oh, that's very good.
If I could, I'd like to call the December 14th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Finance to order. 7:33-ish. First order of business is Jude Reed sent me an email. She is not going to be attending tonight, and she asked that Matt Olson serve in her stead. So we'll appoint him as voting member. Second order of business is the election of the Board of Finance chair.
I'd like to nominate David Kelsey.
Second.
Okay, are there any other nominations? None? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you very much.
I'm going to, excuse me, abstain from the vote.
Okay,
Excuse me.
so one abstention. EJ. All right. Third item is Soundview Sidewalk Transit Hub, potential appropriation. So, Tim had previewed this, right, last month.
And Frank and I have worked on some financial information, so I think Frank is ready to lead us through. I think the sheet that he will show will illuminate how we have moved, early on in the project we had a lot of ineligible expenses. The latter part of the project will be very low the forecast, and that means that the grant money for the improvements will be more heavily weighted towards building improvements. So Frank will just walk us through this.
That's
And one for Michelle.
Do you have enough?
Oh, sorry.
you got the chair. I ran out.
I got one right
You can
here.
share with me.
I don't have it memorized. That's the whole chair.
And this is roughly in keeping with where we were last month. So in terms of
and
potential
I
appropriation.
can say that the Board of Selectmen had a motion at the meeting to recommend to the Board of Finance that the Board of Finance recommend to a town meeting the appropriation not to exceed $50,000 to pay for the ineligible expenses and finish the project. So that's the opening.
So is that the action you'd like us to take tonight, is a motion to approve an additional
I believe so,
$50,000?
because the engineer and the contractor are ready to work during the first quarter. As you know, the town meeting is at the end of January, the last Monday in January. So by having to wait for the annual town meeting, that would cut 1 month off of the quarter, and they're holding prices for us during this quarter. So it might make sense to try to have a special town meeting, and there might be something else that will come along, but at least this item could be acted upon perhaps in the first part of January, or middle of January, get it going.
And so just a big picture before we get to a potential motion. And
Sure.
into the nitty-gritty, because there's a lot of nitty-gritty here, but we've been through it a
Number of times I try to sort it out, so.
Yeah, no. It's always been helpful. So, the Soundview, the committee itself, the sidewalk committee, right, has recommended this.
Yes,
And then the Board of Selectmen has voted to send it to town meeting
Up to you guys.
after our potential approval as well.
Right.
right.
Okay?
So we broke this down into two columns that were kind of easy to figure out. Out of the $400,000 that was originally earmarked for this project, there are two types of expenses, eligible expenses and ineligible expenses. The DOT gave us a $400,000 grant, and as part of that grant, a number of items were eligible, such as the construction costs and some of the engineering inspection costs. Some of the costs that were ineligible were things like the engineering, design, legal fees. One particular issue here we had was getting an A2 survey done, which was never done when the property was bought by the town, so we had to do that. We had to get an easement for realignment of Hartford Avenue. When Hartford Avenue was realigned a number of years ago, nobody ever did a survey. We were actually on somebody's property, so we had to get an easement for that. So those were all items that were ineligible for the grant. So that's just kind of a running total, a running tally here. So on the eligible charges through the end of the first, up until the beginning of December, we had $204,000, and ineligible $40,000. So in December, after the selectmen approved change order 4, we had an additional $116,000 ineligible and an additional $2,300 ineligible. So the third item here, which would be the Q1 anticipated costs, the big number there is a $63,600 change order 5, which would complete the work on the bus stop transit hub eligible area there. The numbers are pretty self-explanatory on the front page. I think that the key here is when you go to the second page and you look at the two different scenarios. In scenario 1, which is pretty much where we're at today, we have roughly $43,300 in ineligible costs, which the town is responsible for. We'd have to write a check out for that, and $320,800 in eligible costs. So if we were to stop the project at this point in time, the town would be returning $79,000 to the state in unused grant money, and would write a check out for $43,000 for the various ineligible costs. What we're looking for is the appropriation of not to exceed $50,000 to bring us to scenario 2. Scenario 2 gives us a situation where the entire project is complete with all the landscaping and sidewalks and all the other amenities that are part of the change order 5, where the town would be on the hook for basically $45,600, roughly $2,300 more than we are now. Yet we would only be returning $9,800 to the state, so we'll be using, roughly 98% of the town of the grant that's available to us. So what we're looking for is that extra $2,300, which kicks it up into scenario 2, which would request an appropriation for not to exceed $50,000.
So in the same spot, except we get
A whole lot more.
no matter what we have,
$2,300.
Right. Because originally it was approved for $400,000, which equaled the grant, where it probably should have been approved for $440,000 or $450,000, because at that point in time, we weren't sure how much ineligible costs we were going to have. And of course, nobody could foresee the Hartford Avenue alignment issues, A2 survey issues, legal issues, and nobody could foresee that.
And we had a contingency already.
We already had a
Blew
contingency.
through the contingency,
Yeah,
and then some.
right.
But I mean, that's clarity of hindsight. So,
Dave, I'd make a motion.
Yep.
To send to town meeting the appropriation of $45,627,000.
is the recommendation 50 just in case?
I would recommend 50 just to be on the side of caution. We never know exactly what the engineer's fees will be, and we won't use it if we don't have to. But
Fair enough.
if something comes along, it might be, that extra $5,000 might be helpful, so.
So I'd like to amend my motion to make it $50,000 to go to the town meeting, to approve the transportation hub, project.
Remainder of work.
Yeah, remainder of
Is
work.
there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions, et cetera? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, say aye. 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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
So everyone should have gotten their packet in the mail.
I was delayed, but I took a quick look at Tim's.
Okay, great, thank you. Nicole, may I ask you to... Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, November. The property tax is collected about 57%, which is in line with how we've done in the past at this point in November. The next item, building and land use. You'll see under building revenue where it shows collected in excess of 16,000 our total budget for the year, but when we went to online payments for building permits, it also included all of land use as well. And so when I get a direct deposit to report, I don't have it broken out at this time.
So you got to sort it out manually?
Right, so we're going to do that at the end of the year, towards June. So I just wanted to know that they're both in there at this time. So it was a little funky. Under grant revenue, we've received another $21,000 from Millstone. That's for last year's. And percentage of revenue received today is 57%. Under expenditures, you'll see just a note under the selectman's office, the part-time wages is over, and that's the greeter that was not budgeted this year.
Nicole, is that going into the COVID account?
No, it's going into your part-time wages. I don't know that...
Dave was saying this should be reimbursable through COVID, so we'll figure that out.
I don't know that he's included any of that. I'm not involved in that. So it's still sitting in your account, as it was last year as well. Under Public Works, Ed had to get one of the trucks repaired for a dump body piston leak. I don't know if that makes sense to all you men. I don't know what it is. He tried to describe it to me, but it was on a truck that, if we put in money, otherwise it's an excellent truck that we have. Under Park and Rec, there's a couple lines over for the repairs due to the repairs we had to do at White Sands Beach. The shower had to be replaced, and a whole new shower installed. It's a push button thing, and the water was turning off, so all that had to be done, including the plumbing this year. And then at Cross Lane, a hose hydrant replacement, which is where the hose gets attached and it goes into the ground. It's about 5 feet deep. It was all corroded, and that for the first time had to get all replaced. So that caused that line item to be over.
Nicole, the repair for the shower down at White Sands was done in November?
No, but it's other things have
Okay,
been
all right.
over, and I just wanted to explain year to
Okay.
date what we've done. why we're over now. And I just wanted to make a note. We just got a bill for $5,600 that was for the Haynes Park bathroom. It was for the upgrade of the water and the water system for the new restroom building, and we had put 50% down on the contract, and Bill never gave us the invoice to pay the rest. And that's not something that finance monitors, it would be the department head. So I told him to go talk to Tim because we really don't have any funding for that. They could come out, I guess.
No, it was in the budget. I will have to get a budget run and see what happened, because it had 11,000 something for that item in the budget, so I'll have to research what.
Well, the fund is closed. There were some funds left over, but
It got transferred?
Bill didn't tell me that was still outstanding, so.
Or he didn't get,
That was last year.
or he didn't get billed? What, I mean...
Well, he had the full contract back,
Right, but that's why it probably was in the budget, but contractors are notorious for giving you a bill like 4 months later. Is that what happened? And we gotta cover
I
it.
think that's what happened, but if we really want to go with that, we can.
Well, no.
I think Bill forgot to show it to us, because he gave us the deposit for the full amount, the full contract of $11,000 back in April, whenever they did it, and said pay 50% of this, and we did, and then he'd have to come back and tell us when to pay the rest when the project was done.
Right.
And that never happened.
Was money sent back to the surplus from this in the
Yes.
amount of $5,600?
No, less than that, it was like a couple thousand.
So worst case, what we have to do is we gotta pay the bill. We gotta find it, and it's probably in the general fund, which is in the purview, because it's under the threshold of the Board of Finance, right?
Yeah, I would say it's probably gonna have to go under the Park and Rec repairs that's already over, because, and I'd rather you not vote on this tonight, because, we've also are gonna get a bill for $2,000 for gutters on the bathroom that was never included, that were forgotten to put on. And so that's gonna be another couple grand.
But we haven't received that bill yet.
No, only an estimate. I was told by Don Bugby that that's the estimate.
Okay.
So we're looking at maybe, $7-8 grand of additional funding we're gonna need.
But is somebody right now looking for $5,600 for the second half of work that was done?
The only place we could pay it out of is the building improvement fund. The one we put $5 grand in every year in the budget.
Yeah.
Do both of those bills out of there if you wanted, but our agreement is we don't spend anything out of there without Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance approval.
Why couldn't it be the general fund under...
It could be under Park and Rec if you want. With stuff I think that may already be going over, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You could pay it out of there if you wanted.
My only point is, if somebody's waiting, if they've done the work,
Right.
6 months later,
Yeah.
I'd like to pay them because they did the work, and, if there's that's my view, but I open it up to...
Can we pay them and look at that line item down the road when you know
Sure
more, to see if we can, after that bill's paid, after the gutters are paid, and we know that these are the reasons we're, whatever, $1,000 over. And just do one allocation then, but the bills get paid.
So, in terms of where it comes out of,
Right.
determine that bills now.
Yeah.
We can pay the bills now.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But
that's my
but
biggest
you know,
concern, yeah.
Park and Rec is gonna have to absorb it, and we might have to give it more money at the end of the year.
Right. Just to make that
What
whole.
would be helpful to know too, what went back from that original quote or estimate that was allocated, what went back into?
I believe it's like 3,000 and change.
Okay, so you're really only talking a couple thousand, and then you have the gutters and you're somewhere around maybe 4,500?
Well, right, because we had talked to, Phil and I had thought that he was gonna be short on that project by like $2 grand, so,
Okay.
All right, so we're close. But as long as we can get bills for folks that have done the work, that's what I think is most important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually you give me hell when I pay those police bills. and I have to take it out of police private duty or something because they've spent it and we have no money. So I just want to make sure that...
Yeah, I don't know I don't think that was me, but, okay.
Well, not you personally. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
The board has always had problems with that, so...
Right.
Okay. All right, I can pay those, and if we need money later, we can do that. All right. Under town park, you'll see facility supplies is over by $9,000. And I guess from talking to Don Bugby, him and the vendor that does the maintenance on and upkeep on the field, had estimated there'd be a big increase in cost just because of COVID and be very difficult to find seed. And so they bought a lot of extra seed now. And they think that that will hold them over for all of the spring and even into the fall next year. But they were afraid if they didn't buy in bulk that they wouldn't be able to get anything in a couple months.
So it could be pulled forward from something they were going to do next year.
So that's
The mice get it.
I was going to say.
under emergency management, Storm Ida, we spent $10,000 in November for stone and brush debris grinding. And Dave feels that will be reimbursed under FEMA. I just want to make sure you all remember that FEMA only reimburses the 75%, not the full 25%. We're going to keep the 25% of everything. Under animal control, there is no overage or anything like that, but I wanted to make you aware that the ACO is averaging about 31 hours a week due to the activity. She does have an assistant who has finally been on the class and become registered, I'm not sure. But in order for her to be an assistant ACO, she had to take all the classes and all of that. So, but I'm worried that position might, if it's averaging more than 30 hours, that kind of qualifies for full-time. So if we go into the budget season, we got to look at, does she need more help? Do we increase her hours? Something like that. Under the fire department, building repairs and maintenance at Lime Street and Cross Lane are over. Both facilities had sewer issues with clogging and septic lines being and had to do a lot of work in both places. One of the stations, all the sewer things were filled with paper towels and stuffage, so I'm not sure what was going on there. And they had to do a lot of excavation over here and place a lot of stuff under the ground for those. So,
But was Cross Lane kind of vandalism, do you think?
well, unless it's somebody who works at the volunteers at the station, sticking paper towels under there. I don't know. I don't know that. I haven't heard that. They did install a new toilet there and floor elbow and installed a line from the rear restroom that was clogged and seeped gray water into the kitchen area.
Yeah, we heard about that.
So kind of gross.
So is that to come, right? Because the budget doesn't currently, well, wait a minute. Are we over, have we already paid those bills, Nicole, and
Yeah.
it's been reported,
Yeah,
so?
the fire department, I believe.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Cross Lane building maintenance.
That's where we put them, we had nowhere else to.
Oh, so your point is, we've already expended it's over by like
Yeah.
$200. It's not that big of a deal, but we may have, yeah, we got 6
They
months.
have general annual, monthly maintenance that's going to hit those lines.
Right, so it could be over in total, whatever, $4,500 if we've already expended, so, yep, good.
Under the police department, just another note that they've gone through 63% of officer overtime. Again, we're down 2 officers, which will probably continue at least through January or February. So the overtime will just continue to grow.
I was going to ask, what's the rate, we're 63% over, is it plateaued, the rate at which they're going through it, or is it continuing to increase the amount of overtime that they're spending?
Well, it's just kicked back up because the 2 officers been out, one's been out for a while now, couple of months, but one of them just went out probably beginning of November. So with him out, OT is gonna keep going up.
So when he's out, are we still paying his full are we still paying his salary? Or are we...
For both, yes.
So we're paying both the salaries and then we have to pay the overtime?
Yes.
Nicole, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The 4769, is that the absolute amount of overtime for the month, or
Yeah.
an amount above what?
That's just what they hit for the month.
And if it were evened out through the year, if you took the total overtime and divided by 12, what would it be? You know?
That I don't know. It's usually not like that. You know, overtime is usually spikes in the summer season when they have to fill in a lot for the beaches, or vacation. There's one officer that usually goes for a month on vacation in December, so that spikes it. So it's
unclear
don't have a monthly amount.
how abnormal the 47 is, but it's high.
I would say it's kind of high for this
For the season, yeah. Because we got 30 grand left. We're not over right now.
Right.
But we're on track to,
yeah,
absolutely.
We're only 5 months into it, and we got 7 to go.
Yeah.
I mean, you have summers,
20 for the department, so we'll be back to town meeting on that.
and there's only 30,000 left, BJ, so
So 30,000 per,
overtime remaining between now and the end of the year.
For the year, maybe some of us on.
And the ranges are already over.
90 or 100.
We're sitting down on that one. All right, under the senior center, another line item that's over is the repair and maintenance there. There was some interior framing and work that had to be done inside, the chimney with the bill changed from, I'm not sure now if he went from propane to a furnace. Whenever he had that change last year, this was extra work that was not included in, that should have been.
Is that shared, or is that our share with Lime?
That's 100% that will get reimbursed,
25 or whatever.
yeah, 21.
Or 50, yeah.
Household hazardous waste, this is a separate department, it's got a couple line items. The whole department is over as of November 30th by like 1,300, and it will continue to go over. It's over due to the increased volume of almost line residents participating in events like, Bring Your Oil or whatever else they have. In different towns, they have disposal events, type of thing. But that'll be another one that we'll have to fund an overage on. And just some stuff that we finished for capital, the painting and cleaning of the exterior back of the building. Town hall is done. Senior center repairs to the exterior, just again where that new furnace or chimney comes out, there had to be some work done on that. And the kitchen suppression system as well was completed. The fire department finished the Knox box project. Hard for me to say that.
What's the Knox box?
If you remember,
I think it's the thing that
Oh, is it the...
outside,
it has keys in it and...
so they can get in.
Digital.
Okay, yeah.
They have a master key for it, so they can get in and get the keys to the building, so they can get
They
in.
have codes now,
Oh,
people, isn't that how they described it? Like, it wasn't just somebody having a key, having to come and open
I thought
the
this-
box.
oh, maybe Matt, you know, isn't there a box on the outside of some buildings?
When you get those, there's one that Valley Shore can unlock. Yeah.
Okay.
Too, so there's a couple different types.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought it was the different,
The codes.
Code, keypad, or like a, or something.
Yeah.
all I know is I paid the bill. I tried to get information. That's about all I had.
But it was planned, so.
It was planned and it's within their budget, so.
Right.
And just on the back side, just some other funds we had going on. The town clerk routinely gets a grant from the Connecticut Library Department, and she uses for it for storage and preservation Conservation Records grant, and she uses that to, put old records online, because they have a specific vendor that does that, so every year she's going farther and farther back to get those all online and available for online access for residents as well. The fire department got another $2,500 grant from DEEP, and it's for firefighting gear. So they have a line item in their budget for firefighting gear. So the $2,500, the other side of it is going there, and it will be reimbursed to the town. And in open space, I just wanted to give you a year-to-date of what we've spent out of that fund on appraisals and legal. The appraisals mostly have to do with the Ames property and the space that they want to acquire, but the legal mostly has to do with the McCullough farm and just a lot of issues that they've had to resolve, and we're having to do with the lot, the affordable lots, and some other boundary stuff that come out of there as well.
Thank you. Old business. We'll do this stuff under new business.
Yeah.
Any old business? New business. Let's start with the schedule, which we have to approve tonight. Everyone should have a copy. Take a look and reflect. Just a reminder what we talked about last time, starting at 7 for everything. And then Region 18 budget. Okay, there are actually two elements to this, one of which is the schedule, which we can vote on, I think pretty much agree upon. And then the other thing is assignments. And so what I'd like to do is right now the assignments as listed are those assignments based upon folks who were with us prior to the election. They've been eliminated, and then we've got everybody who's currently on the board. We like to have two specialists for each of the items for discussion for various parts to it. So what I'd like is if everyone can email to me their desired specialist roles. I'll take a look at that and figure out what we do via email if we could. So I'll let everybody know who had expressed an interest in what, and then we can refine that going forward, if that's okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the schedule of regular 2022 meetings.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion at all? Questions? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Great, thank you. Then just mechanical item. Did everyone get a chance to take a look, or ministerial rather, take a look at the make sure that if there are any changes, if you would make those changes and give those to Michelle, and she can circulate a final for our next meeting. That'd be great. Tim, are you going to talk about Halls Road under Selectmen's report?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll weigh in at that time. Great, okay. Approval of minutes. August 17th, I think we had one number that we were looking for confirmation on, my recollection. So, taking a look.
It was actually, I think it was carryovers or the allocation of carryovers. And Nicole, you actually wrote something for that paragraph and sent it to me. I said it was fine. Have you circulated that?
Yeah, I sent it to everybody. I thought we went through this last time, and it was already approved.
We didn't approve it last time. We wanted super deluxe confirmation is basically where we ended up.
I was all set with it the last meeting, so I don't remember what we had to approve that.
Yeah, I mean, it was in the minutes that we just received, that we had tabled those, so, if you're good.
I think I'm good based on it.
Well, but the point is that we wanted, Nicole was going to rewrite the paragraph and she did that. So we want to get into the minutes, the rewritten paragraph. And we need those.
It's in there, BJ.
You have them?
Yes, it's in there.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the minutes from last month say that Mr. Kelsey reviewed the minutes of the regular meeting on August 17th. There was still a question on the carryover amount discussed at the August 17th meeting. Nicole will review the wording on the minutes and report back at the December 14th meeting. So it sounds like that already happened between...
Well, it happened between us, but we need the board to see the word. Can you produce a copy of them?
if the minutes are different from the minutes that we reviewed in November, that's what you're saying, right? So if they've incorporated
It's
some
just a
language.
short paragraph of a couple of sentences that we need to read to the board.
Do you have access to your email there, Michelle, or no?
Sure. Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
It's what's in red, Dave.
Okay, perfect. That's great. So, these are the August 17, 2021 minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Well, I think you should read the revised words and then let us vote to approve those.
To approve those, okay.
And so it would be to approve the August 17 minutes as amended to adopt the new language.
Okay, that sounds good. So, the amendment reads, new business, this is on page 2, carryovers. Mrs. Stadgerhard distributed the carryover request detail for 6/30/21 and highlighted the following. $1,464,571 of the $2,109,551 carried over at 6/30/20 was spent, leaving $644,980 remaining. Okay, hold on to your hats, because there's 3 more of these. Of that $644,980, $326,923 will be returned to surplus, while $318,057 is requested to be carried over. In addition, I think, $1,041,992 from fiscal year 2021 is requested to be carried over for a total carryover at 6/30/21 of $1,360,049. Next bullet point, there was discussion on the amount needed for the Lower Mill Pond Dam. It was decided to remove $50,000 of carryover for the dam. As a result, the total carryover amount, this was the issue as I recall, just parenthetically, was reduced to $1,310,4 $49. That is the sole amendment to the minutes that we reviewed at the last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Mr. Russell, is there a second? Mr. Olson? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I'll abstain since I was not present at the August 17th meeting.
Thank you. Very good. No nays? Okay, good stuff. Now, the November 16th minutes. The only thing I had, Michelle, were extra periods at the bottom of page 4, which I'm sure you already got. That's my contribution. More to come.
Sure. ...
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from November 16, 2021? Mr. Garden, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Russell? All right, any discussion?
And I have a comment on page 3. Under new business, Mr. Kelsey stated the regional school district is having a meeting to discuss the $45 million proposal for the, I would change the following word this way to say air conditioning, ventilation, and other improvements in all floors along the side. It's more than just air conditioning and ventilation, I believe.
That's the way I may have said it, but I agree with that change. How about that?
That's fine. I don't want the reader to think we're getting a really fancy air conditioning system.
It is the bulk of it.
Most of it is that. That's almost all of it.
But that is the right clarification. There's other stuff. Anything else? Any other comments or additions or revisions? All right. Move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Great. Thank you. All right. Selectmen's report.
Okay. Pleased to report that the transfer station scale house is now operational. So Mr. Ruddy and Mr. Terry are no longer using the little shack, and that will be moved over to Public Works in due course. But it's a vast improvement for sure, so that's great. Next item, Ferry Road. The committee had a meeting this past week, and the tree warden reviewed various trees on the street that likely, in his opinion, would need to be removed because of the handicap accessibility of a sidewalk going in there. Some of the tree roots are right under the panels, so when you try to install a new panel, it's very difficult to, you either have to ramp up and get material over top of the roots, or you can possibly shave the roots, but when it's a very tough angle, it's really not practical. So the tree warden is going to mark trees which he thinks would be required to be removed. There will be a public hearing in January, so people could voice their opinions about that, and depending on where he comes out, he is the word. If somebody does not like his decision, they can take it to a court. But it's a very challenging street, I think, as many of us know. Assuming this goes, he finishes his work and the challenges are not ongoing, then likely the project could be put out to bid in the I would say, March, April timeframe, and the work could ensue from there. Due to the nature of need to be, the budget will really have to be examined because there's a lot of work to figure out what has to be done. The removal of the trees is a big job in and of itself, and I think the sidewalk construction itself did not consider a lot of tree removal, so we'll have to go back and revisit the budget. Following the public hearing, the committee will be making a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen about whether the sidewalk should be on the north side or the south side. And so that's coming up with some activity. Any questions on that? Okay. Swan Brook, this is an ongoing issue. For those of you who know Swan Brook, it comes down on the west side of Miami Beach, enters a couple of 36-inch pipes under the beach, where the pipes exit the sand and go into a town. There's a wood crib that's supposed to protect the end of the pipe, but the wood crib is basically shot. And the engineer that we had look at it had a couple of ideas. One would be to create a sheet pile crib, meaning that there'd be 25-foot galvanized sheets that would be driven in, and his vision would be that the west ones would be curved to stop the sand from blocking into the pipes. Hopefully he's right, because if the wind and all the weather comes from the east, why something that curves around to the east would have its own set of problems. The other proposal would be to make a swale, if you will. It would be a gentle ditch on the border of Miami Beach at this Hawks Nest Beach Association, and that would allow the water to come out without having blockages that we see with a pipe. But of course, if there was a big storm, why, it's kind of a conduit to have the water go sloshing back into Miami Beach area. The sheet pile concept could likely be done with what's known as a certificate of permission. It's about a 90-day process to get that approved, ideally. And given the state of the thing, why, that would be a plus. The swale in another location would require a full DEP permit, which could take 18 months to 2 years. So I don't know what we could do in the interim to make that drainage work. It may be eligible for ARPA money, but if the cost was, say, $150,000 to do this work, and we don't have any real estimate at this point, it's kind of, the engineer says might be 150. Out of the $2 million, that would be, a reasonable percentage of the revenue. So, but it could be an option, and if it were to pass muster, it's very difficult to find out who approves the concept. I've asked OPM, Courtney's office, and so forth, saying, who is the person behind the screen that would say this is eligible or is not eligible, and not been successful so far. But of course, lately, the residents of Miami Beach have been sending pictures showing the water sloshing around the low streets. Now, got to be mindful that a lot of those areas were filled in. Pond Road was named Pond Road because it was a pond there. So, it's not surprising, but of course, some of the residents are disturbed by that. So, this has been an ongoing thing, and we're going to have to do something. So, just that's an update on that.
And what do you think near term? I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it doesn't seem to make sense to wait for figuring out if it's ARPA money is appropriate. I would think the town just needs to, it's been determined the town is responsible since the town put it in originally.
Yeah, the lawyer, said because it was put in by the town in the 40s that likely we're responsible. So, whether we could, basically, there's a fork in the road. If we want to fix this thing, it's either, you could do it with ARPA money, quickly, efficiently maybe, or you could do a bigger fix, but I don't know what you do for a year and a half to 2 years to satisfy, because it is a beach, and this cribbing system is pretty hazardous. You know, it's broken timbers and bolts and stuff. It's pretty nasty looking. So we're going to have a meeting with the engineer and really try to get the best recommendation. Just to unclog the pipes, a fellow who lives in Miami who unclogs big pipes said it could be $15,000 just to get it out. But if in the next storm it becomes compacted again, there goes 15 grand. So it's a mess to figure out what's the best. So we'll stay tuned. And I don't know that we're ready to say let's do 150, but maybe by our next meeting we can get a little more clarity.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the potentially temporary solution of unclogging the pipes and then tomorrow having them fill back up again. But I'm wondering if there could be a temporary solution to that. You know, some structure put south of the pipes to, at least temporarily, keep them from getting filled up again. Yeah. That's one comment. But the more general comment is, if the town has accepted the obligation that we have to fix it, then we should, you know, proceed expeditiously to figure out, you know, the most cost-effective way to do it. And I gather that nobody is disputing that it's our obligation, right? Yeah, and the committee, I'm sure they would take umbrage at using 7% of the money for one project. Well, I'd go with Andy's. I mean, I think what we want to do is figure out the best cost-effective solution, and then figure out how to pay for it, because we've decided we have to do it, right? Yeah. And not delay the solution. But there's time factor too. The permit itself, it could be very time-consuming, and what do we do in the interim? So well, but all the more reason to come up with a solution sooner rather than later, so we can apply for the permit.
Yeah. But when you're meeting with the engineer for the fork in the road conversation shortly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe, don't you have plans from DACO, drawings, renderings for the new?
He did some just very casual stuff. It wasn't really detailed stuff.
For placement of the pilings?
He thought that the swale type thing could be good. Now, maybe you could make some kind of gate in there that if there was a storm coming, you could have a mafia blocks or something that would stop the water from coming in. I don't know.
His third option was to just raise every house.
It was the cheapest option.
It was.
DACO's paper napkin estimate, so to speak, that you said of $150,000, was that for option 1 or for option 2, or are they both similarly cost but just have different timelines?
That's for the galvanized sheet pile.
Okay.
I can imagine that if you created a swale, he was saying you could put some sort of a unique mat in the bottom of it. Okay. It might be like the blasting mats that are heavy, and you could drive a machine over it to clean out the sand and stuff. So I can't see that would be frightfully expensive if you dug a ditch and lined it. But how do you stop the water from coming in?
And that's 2 years down the road with the required permits, right?
And from the swale, we fill in with sand.
One storm with the wind coming the wrong way, and it's going to fill right up.
Yeah. Okay. Ames open space is all approved by all of us, but there are some technical issues with that. So we're sort of in a holding pattern for the principals to agree on what they agree. So whether we can get that teed up for the town meeting, we'll see. But we're ready.
So there is a signed purchase and sale agreement?
Yeah.
Okay. And is there a closing date?
No. There are some issues between the buyer and other people that could...
That are contingencies so that they can't set a closing date?
Yeah.
Until those contingencies
Yeah,
are fulfilled?
homeowner association stuff and
Right.
things like that. Halls Road, Dave and I attended a meeting. He's on the Halls Road Committee. And we got a briefing on the sequential steps, if you will, that might be used to make the public improvements a reality. And the BSC, there is a lot SIP grant, LOTCIP. I'm not sure what all that is, but and so that could be a grant that comes from the state of Connecticut. I think even the COG is involved in shepherding these things. But it could be a fairly significant amount of money, and to start the process, it would require an estimate of $13,500 to do the grant preparation for the lot SIP grant. And I'm not sure all the elements that would be involved, but then of course, when you get into actual design work, that will be more money, and then the actual construction, that's more money. But so 13.5 would be probably the balance of the fiscal year to get that lot SIP grant. There's another grant that's called a Connecticut Trails Grant, and that process, that would involve an easement over Grayble's property, which is the Hangry Goose, and the vision would be that people could walk and then make a right and go along the Lieutenant River up to the Flow Grizz, and a nice walk and connect up there. So to do that, they estimate about $7,000 in surveys and legal and so forth to get that. But there could be a grant of some magnitude as well. And turning to the private improvements, get the new zoning overlay. So what now looks to be the way it may flesh out is, and we'll keep the zoning the way it is, but there'll be an overlay zone for the village district in that area. And that would alleviate a concern that some of the businesses had that if the zone changed, everybody would be non-conforming that didn't comply with what the zoning change is. So if they were not disturbed by that, the ones that didn't want to go forward with the village district, they could. So there'd be two columns, one what the current zoning is, and one would be the village district, and so it'd be your choice, you know. And having that go to conclusion might be legal fees of around $10,000 and some engineering work, zoning, so forth, maybe $9,000.
And just a clarification, that $9,000 and the $10,000 would get the zoning regs to a point where they could be considered by the Board of Selectmen for recommendation to the zoning commission. That what had happened prior, but it was a little bit premature. So, and all of this totals to about a little over $40,000 just to preview, because this is going to come up again.
40 to 45.
Yeah, 40 to 45. But
Thank you.
these are immediate needs to advance.
Couple more.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
No.
This is from 80-20. You need one? Yeah. And so, The LoCIP grant is probably a 6 to 8 week process of preparing the grant. And then it needs to be considered, and we need to talk to COG for their endorsement and endorsement of town officials and that sort of thing to make sure it's backing as it possibly can. But that gets us to a point where we'll be able to present to the DOT that administers and actually gives out those LoCIP grants. So the easements for Graybill and the pedestrian bridge is important for the second element grant, which is the trails grant that Tim talked about. And then separate and apart are the two other items, the 9,000 and the 10,000, that get us to a point where we can proceed with zoning. There's going to be in January a presentation to business owners, and then separately a larger group for the public, including business owners, for the input into what that zoning ultimately could be. But that's also a January item. So the purpose of making folks aware tonight is this could also be an item that comes up for the town meeting at the end of January, given the immediacy of the needs to continue the project as conceived right now.
Dave, was there any estimate of the magnitude of the potential lot SIP grant and the probability of obtaining it?
So probability no, but in terms of being able to tee yourself up, you want the understanding is, and this is from BSC and their engineer, who's not necessarily the grant guy, but he said if the River COG approves, he has not been part of, if the River COG is behind the project, he hasn't seen a project not get approved for some level of grant.
Good.
The conception right now for that grant, and this would be kind of the hardscapes, if you will, right? So this will be street improvements and moving utility lines and that sort of thing, is to ask for $2 million. So no guarantees. And one of the big things that Edie and I talked about, and Tim as well, is making sure that we have solid numbers on what the overall project could be, so that we don't have a situation where things get approved and then all of a sudden you're going back to the town for more money, et cetera. So being realistic about what those costs are, in contrast to, hey, we got $2 million, you know, we can do this, but we really wanted to do all this other stuff. So $2 million, short answer, is for LoCIP, and then the ask for the trails grant is $800,000. Again, that's the ask. And that would include the trail itself. There's a boardwalk that's conceived because by the Lime Art Association, obviously it's a pretty steep embankment right there, so you need to make the connection between Lime Street and the Webster Bank. And then there's the Bow Bridge itself.
Correct. Well, that's positive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this 40 to 45,000 would be the first row of steps.
That's right.
Not by any means the destination.
And the goal is, prior to the town meeting, to have BSC, which has done a lot of work, and we've paid them for a lot of work as well, to come up with much more discrete numbers for us. So that when people approve the 40,000, the obvious question is, okay, how much is the overall cost of the project going to be? They have some very high-level numbers right now that can be refined without that much work. You know how much linear feet of sidewalk you're going to need. Mm-hmm. You know how much each pole costs to move. So their number right now is a little bit too much of a swag for folks to be comfortable to go in front of the town to ask, even for the 40,000. Mm-hmm. You know, so.
There are these boards out in the foyer that show the project. If you haven't looked at them, really, it's gives you a pretty good idea what's contemplated.
See, the 20% contingency, that looks like it's 2%, not 20?
It's a misnomer.
Okay.
If we could, refine the park area, build the Bow Bridge and have the trail off the river, that would be wonderful, I think.
So that's one thought, is breaking it into maybe 3 different discrete projects.
Yeah.
There are economies. If you have a big project, staging costs money, so if you do it in different stages, it can cost you more money. But this lends itself to the Bow Bridge area. That could be one discrete project,
Right.
for example, yeah.
Right.
So, just an FYI for January.
And the last item is the Mira, which is our trash to energy company. I think you know that Mira is going to hold up on June 30th the plant in Hartford where our trash is transported and burned. So all trash will then be trucked out of state. Essex, where our trash hauler takes it, will be a transfer station for trucks to haul it out of state. And there'll be several others around the state handling the Mira material. Mira is trying to line up the contractors to do all this. I think it's a lot of trucks. And the transfer station and all that. So what they are asking the member towns, of which there are 48, one of which is O-Line, is to waive the opt-out clause, because every year a town could opt out of the deal and go somewhere else. But there's not a lot of options. So if the town stayed in there, we're paying about 105 or 110 a ton?
For tippage.
I don't think it's that high, but
105 maybe? I don't think it's less than 105.
it's not over 100, I don't believe.
Okay, well,
It's a lot higher than where we started 5 years ago.
but for the towns that stayed in, they'd get about a $6 a ton reduction for staying in. And be mindful that the recycling material is taken by Mira at no charge. So, to the extent that we do a good job of recycling, that brings our overall cost down. We generate about 3,000 tons a year. So, I think it'd be fruitful to have somebody from Mira come and talk, because we're going to have to make a decision. Do we want to waive our option to leave and continue on? Because if say 50% of the towns left, if they could, it's going to be very difficult to line up contractors and all the stuff that needs to be done. So, Carl Fortuna, who's Saybrook's first selectman, he's on the board, and it might be good to get either somebody from the company to come talk to us and give a little more details, because it's an important step.
So Tim, if we opt out of the contract, that means we stay in the contract. And
if you waive your option,
yeah,
you
if we waive the right to opt out,
right,
we stay in for 1 year or longer than a year?
5.
For 5
The
years.
remaining 5 years.
Okay. And are we being asked to do that before we know what the cost will be? Or have we gotten estimates of cost yet?
Yeah, I don't think they can give us ironclad costs, but I think they will have a pretty good approximation. But we're at the mercy of out of state. I mean, this stuff goes to Ohio, Pennsylvania, down south.
Garbage barge.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the question, is whether do we have any alternatives? Are we investigating, are other towns investigating other trucking out of state alternatives besides Mira?
I would say that trucking out of state, all those entities are going to have the same challenges as to the costs and so forth. I don't think we would be able to get into Preston, where they have that facility.
That's filled up.
Yeah.
All the municipalities that can sign up are already signed up.
So, I think the DEP has been very bad at helping CRRA and Mira manage this, because the plant's been old for a long time. It was the old Harper Electric Light Company plant. No surprise. But here we are, and 700 and some odd thousand tons have to be dealt with. That's the,
It's a depressing note to end on. Okay, thank you very much, Tim. Anything else, anyone? Great. Well, thank you for coming up during the holiday season, appreciate that. And, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Russell? Second. No debate, all those in favor? Aye? All right. Any opposed? Happy holidays to all. Thank you very much. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Actually, it wasn't that. I told my kids 9:30, but